At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Philadelphia Phillies. And a happy 236th birthday to the United States of America. It's a beautiful day for a national holiday. The Mets and Phillies playing on the 4th of July. They've had big crowds here at Citi Field the last few days, and today you got the added bonus of the barbecue and the holiday and a chance for the Mets to further deflate the Phillies. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and a happy 4th of July. I'm Gary Cohen. Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling join me in just a moment as the Mets and Phillies play Game 2 of their 3-game series. Last night, an 11-1 obliteration of the Phils for the Mets, and it was the top two guys in the batting order who had a big hand in it. Daniel Murphy had another big night, Keith. 4 more hits, 4 more RBIs. He's just on a great roll. Well, he went into probably the worst slump of his career in that last road trip, and he looked lost. But I tell you what, he has busted out in his last 10 games, hitting at a .438 clip. And the 4 hits, as you said, Gary, there was the first one right there. Got a little lucky there. You take him any way you can get him. But what I liked about these at-bats and his 4 hits last night is that he used the whole ball field, Gary. He used left center field twice down the left field line. In his last at-bat, he got that double in the right center field gap. So he's on a tear, hitting left-handers. He's also driving in runs, 4 last night. That's the 3rd time in his last 6 starts that Daniel has driven in 4 or more runs. He's on a roll. Had a couple of cracks at a cycle last night, but joked that he would have had to stand at second base and hit from there to hit it out of Citi Field. Meanwhile, his running mate at the top of the batting order, Ruben Tejada, moved into the leadoff spot last night, and what a spark he's provided since coming back from the disabled list. Well, we've always liked this young man. He's so patient at the plate for such a young hitter. 3 for 5 last night. He's got an on-base percentage of .377, and since his return from the DL, his last 9 games, he's hitting at a .385 clip and scored 8 runs over that period and 4 RBIs. So the 1-2 spots in the order have been loading them up for the big guys in the middle. Meanwhile, the Mets starting pitching continues to excel. Last night, John Neese was right on top of his game for 8 innings, and today the baseball goes to Chris Young. You know what the great thing about Chris Young, and I don't want to jinx him, every time you get about the same effort, 6 or 7 innings, he gives up 2 or 3 runs. He's such a pro's pro. I do think the one thing he's going to have to deal with today, though, he's always had a hard time holding runners on, and the stolen base is a big weapon for Philadelphia. And one of the strangest stories in baseball this year, the winless Cliff Lee makes his 14th start. In the beginning, he did not have a lot of run support. He had a game where he pitched 10 innings and did not get a decision, but he has not been good in his last 3 starts with a 7 ERA. 24-17 in a Phillies uniform. So it's the Mets and Phils on the 4th of July at Citi Field as the Mets try and make it 8 of 11 against the Phils this year. Happy Independence Day. All the action coming your way on SNY. is brought to you by AT&T. Rethink possible. By New York State. Discover what you love. Plan your vacation now. By Bud Light. By State Farm. Today's State Farm agent of the day is Pat Cawley of Glendale. Contact Pat's office at patcawley.org. By Lexus. And by The Amazing Spider-Man in theaters now. The 2013 MLB All-Star Game is coming to Citi Field. Secure access to buy 2013 All-Star event tickets by becoming a 2012 season ticket holder, 40-game plan holder, or 15-game pack holder by this Tuesday. Get to Mets.com/All-Star info today for more information. Chris Young making his way in from the bullpen, getting ready for his 6th start of the season. Mets and Phils on Independence Day. First pitch coming right up. Phillies beat the Rays to win the 2008 World Series. And the Phillies have won 5 straight division titles. But last year ended in pain for Philadelphia. And the pain has continued into 2012. The Mets have supplied a dose of that pain, winning 7 of 10 times against the Phillies this year. And they'll try and keep that going today. Let's check out the Phillies starting lineup, brought to you by Ford. Juan Pierre, who sat last night, is in there hitting number 2. He's been a big spark for Philadelphia so far this year. Carlos Ruiz remains in that cleanup spot, waiting for Ryan Howard, who had a home run in a rehab start last night and may be joining the Phillies shortly after the All-Star break. But it's a Phillies team that's now 10 games under 500 for the first time in 10 years.
Chris Young on the mound today. I don't know if you can hear in the background, Princeton grad with Guns N' Roses as his song for Chris. You can see his record this year, 51-35 in his career with a fine 3.72 ERA.
And the Lexus Metropolitan defense. And you can see it's a fly ball pitcher today. So I remember Davey Johnson when Sid would pitch, he'd run Howard Johnson out at shortstop, and Kevin Mitchell would play left field because he was a fly ball pitcher. But everybody pretty much the same here. New and Heiss, of course, there's been a player change here. We've got a player roster move. Valdespin's here.
They're the base coaches for the Phillies. Former Mets third base coach Sam Perlaza coaching at first, and former Met center fielder Juan Samuel coaching at third.
There's Mr. Charles Manuel. Can't be a happy camper.
8 years with the Phillies. Charlie's Phillies teams have never won fewer than 85 games. But as we said, 10 games under 500 for the first time at any point in the season since 2002. That's the depths to which the Phillies have sunk. And as Charlie said last night, the next 3 weeks are crucial to see whether the Phillies will be sellers at the trading deadline. Jimmy Rollins leads off, takes a fastball for a strike, and we're underway.
They asked Charlie, what's wrong, Charlie, with the team? He said, everything. And that's how it's been for the Phillies.
And Rollins lifts one to center, and Torres back in the gap. Gets there and makes the grab for the first out of the day. So Chris Young, who averages 2 fly balls for every ground ball in his career, gets a fly ball out for his first out of the day.
Probably lost in the game last night because they blew the team away was the jump that Andres Torres got on at least 3 or 4 fly balls straight over his head. Made some tough plays look very easy.
Well, he was a late addition to the lineup last night. Kirk Neuenhuis hurt his hand in batting practice yesterday. That hand is still hurting him this morning as Juan Pierre takes high 1-0. They did not put Neuenhuis on the disabled list. Valdespin was called up to give the Mets an extra bench player, but instead they excised a reliever and designated for assignment left-hander Justin Hampson. So the Mets are going with a 6-man bench and a 6-man bullpen. Chase Utley waits on deck. Young falls behind on Pierre, who rarely walks or strikes out, and he takes ball 3.
Interesting so far. The first 2 batters, Chris Young has been down in the strike zone.
Pierre hitting at .317, and he takes a letter high strike, 3-1.
Don't be surprised if he tries the bunt. He does not go David's way and brings it with him towards first base and tries to beat the 6'10" Chris Young to first base.
And he takes a strike. He thought it was ball 4. Tossed the bat away. Come on back, Juan.
Kind of inclined to agree with him here. Let's take a peek. Closer than I thought.
Well, especially as far as Nicky has had to reach for that ball.
That's a pitcher's pitch right there. Nipped it.
So a 3-2 count to Pierre. And he hits one to center field. And again, Torres has to move back on it and gets there easily for the second out. And you're right, Ronnie. In these 2 games at Citi Field, this is as comfortable as we've seen Andres Torres in center field this year.
He had a couple of, I would say, misplays in Los Angeles, and I'm sure that those were addressed, and he's been on point since then.
Well, that ball that was hit against R.A. Dickey that fell into left center, which for a long time was the only hit in the game for the Dodgers. And I think that the message has been sent to Andres that he needs to be a little more aggressive. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Chase Utley, 0 for 4 last night. This is just his 5th game since coming back from the disabled list.
We've got a nice matchup tomorrow. R.A. Dickey, of course, 12-1, goes for number 13 up against Cole Hamels. 2 aces.
2 guys who are going to the All-Star game this year. A ball and a strike to Utley. Here's Cole, who has traditionally had trouble against the Mets, but not so far this year.
Lots of speculation that he may take a little free agent waltz down to the West Coast next season.
Well, the question is, if the Phillies fall a little further behind, would Ruben Amaro try and cash in his chips with Hamels at the trading deadline?
And you've got the same situation with the center fielder, Shane Victorino. So it could be a reshuffling of the Philadelphia Philly deck, a team that has been so dominant.
Carlos Ruiz waits on deck. Well, it's a Philly team that is showing its age, but you would think in that respect the one guy they would have to hang on to, one of their youngest star, is Hamels. The breaking ball in for a strike, 2-2.
But when you're a free agent, it's the player's choice, and you know what? I'll never blame a player for walking. It takes 6 years to become a free agent, and it's your one time, and if you want to move, I think that player should have that right.
Now Young with a 2-2. And Utley, it's a weak ground ball. And Murphy from the outfield grass throws him out by a running stride. And Young has a 1-2-3 opening inning. Mets come to bat against Cliff Lee when we come back. Ruben Tejada hits leadoff in the second straight game, and Daniel Murphy hits second. Why not after the success last night? Scott Harriston slides into the cleanup spot against the left-hander, but Duda and Davis both in there against the left-hander Cliff Lee.
I was saying before that he had some tough luck early in the season, but it's really been his own tough luck the last 3 starts. His ERA is 7.71, 16 earned runs in his last 18 2/3 innings pitched.
Well, he just had a miserable June, 0-3, with an ERA over 6.
Ruben Tejada leads it off after a 3-hit game last night. His 8th game with 3 or more hits this year, and keep in mind he's only played 36 games, and he takes a strike from Lee. Tejada now at .326 and .385 since coming back from the disabled list, so he has provided a big spark for the Mets offense. Mets last night had their highest scoring output at Citi Field this season, putting up 11 runs and 15 hits. Daniel Murphy and David Wright to follow against Lee, whom the Mets are facing for the 4th time this season. He's got 2 no decisions and a loss against the Mets this year. 2 balls and a strike to Tejada.
Well, you notice that Ruben's got the tape on the knob of his bat, and that's to help him choke up, and I like that. And listen, he's not a home run hitter. This is a big ballpark, still with the new dimensions. That is terrific. I like the fact that he's choking up. His job is to get base hits.
How does that tape help a hitter in terms of choking up?
It gives him a second knob. Maybe we can get a little closer view, but a lot of guys, they put tape there to kind of create a second knob. And you can see it just kind of gives you a spot, maybe just a mark for him where how high he wants to choke up.
2-2 from Lee, and Tejada lifts one to shallow left center, cutting in his Victorino, and he's there, 1 away.
And of course, like Philadelphia Philly defense. Well, there's a lot of gold on that field today for the Phillies. It changes in the defense. Obviously, Pierre's out in left field today. Mayberry, who started in left yesterday, is at first base today. This is a team that has been challenged offensively of late.
Well, here is the suddenly raging hot Daniel Murphy. A week ago, he was in the worst slump of his career, but it has all turned around for him.
Very aggressive first pitch swinging too, hasn't he? And I will not be surprised if Murphy, Tejada, and some of the other Mets that are pretty hot are moving their feet, or at least being pitched inside today by Lee.
Well, there's a lot of guys look very, very comfortable up there last night in their stances. And, you know, there's a pitcher, Ronnie, you know, that's my inside corner. But Murph with that 4 RBI game, excuse me, Garrett, he got over 42 RBI now, and there are 4 Met members that have over 40 RBI. There's only one other team that has that many players with 40 or more RBI, and that's the Cardinals, and they have 5.
Saw that graphic a moment ago. In his last 5 starts, 9 extra base hits and 14 RBIs. No Met in history had ever done that before. 9 extra base hits and 14 RBIs in a span of 5 starts. 2-2 now to Murph. So he's gone from the basement to the penthouse in very short order.
And, you know, good hitters, when they break out, they get raging hot.
Just missed, and a full count to Murphy with David Wright waiting on deck. Well, for Lee, it's been a combination of things. A combination of blown saves by the bullpen. There have been 3 of those. Poor run support earlier in the year. And lately, as Murphy tops one foul, lately it's been a matter for Lee of letting leads get away. And in Vida Blue's case, 14 starts in 1983 without a win. That was 12 years after his Cy Young season, and he was a pitcher on the decline at that point.
So it's 71 Cy Young for Vida.
Oh boy, what a breakout season that was.
The thing about Lee is that his struggles right now are not completely unprecedented. You know, back in 05 with the Indians, he won 18 games, but 2 years later, he was in the minor leagues. He struggled so badly. Here's a 3-2 to Murph, and it's in there for a call, strike 3. So Lee has his first strikeout.
And Murph knew it, and that is some serious masterpiece right there. Pain.
As we've seen all season long, the pitchers, Greinke, etc., that give the Mets fits because of their ability to watch pitches and get deep in the count are the guys who just pound the strike zone and say, here, hit it.
So here's David Wright, who had a 3-run homer, drove in 4 runs last night. So David finished the statistical first half of the season with 10 homers and 54 RBIs. Pablo Sandoval has a home run today, but I don't think that'll assuage Met fans who believe that David was robbed in the All-Star balloting.
I mean, that was quite a reversal. Yeah. David was winning by what, 400,000 votes?
And he ended up losing by $1.5 million.
Oh, gee.
But what struck me were the total numbers. There were so many more votes in that last week than there had been in the 4 weeks prior.
Well, what? Buster Posey got over, what, 7 million, and Josh Hamilton got over 11 million?
Strike 3 called, and Lee makes short work of David Wright. Back-to-back strikeouts. Both pitchers off to a good start. No score after 1. The Philadelphia batting order. Carlos Ruiz will lead it off. Ruiz accounted for the only Phillies run last night with his 12th home run of the year, attacking the first pitch he saw last night from John Neese. It's been interesting looking at Ruiz's numbers beyond the obvious ones. His walk rate is way down this year, so he has been seeing fewer pitches and attacking earlier in the count, which kind of runs against a lot of players' game plan these days. And their first pitch swinging and losing his bat in the process. Bat winding up in the third row of the stands.
I've heard about Bat Day, but that's ridiculous. That had to go right over Hunter Pence's head also.
So waiting for Carlos Ruiz to get his bat back after that bat sailed into the crowd, and everybody appears to be okay.
Yeah, two youngsters too. That's
thank gosh. Thank gosh they're smiling. I guess they'll pay attention any game they go to in the future.
Oh my God.
Look at this.
Wow.
Right over their head.
So fortunate.
Missed by that much.
Yeah, the ground around. You got to stick a hand out there, don't you?
Wow. Scary.
Hunter Pence on deck, and then Shane Victorino for the Phillies in the second. And the curveball in for a strike, and it's 1-2. Ruiz is hitting over 350 against both lefties and righties this year. The only other player in the majors who can say that, David Wright. Just inside. Corner that Lee got against Wright, and Young just missed it.
And ironically, both players, I think, should be starting on the National League All-Star team, and then they're not.
Ooh, that barely missed. Tim Timmons has had a small strike zone so far this afternoon.
That's a veteran crew right there, that's for sure.
Jeff Kellogg, the crew chief. Eric Cooper, Marty Foster rounding it out. 3-2 from Young to Ruiz, and a fly ball hit out to left field, and Scott Harriston drifting back. 1 out, excuse me. So Ruiz is retired. And Young's retired 4 in a row, retiring 3 of the 4 on fly balls. You know, Elias went back and looked. Since they lowered the mound from 15 inches to 10 inches in 1969, there's been only one other starting pitcher who's had twice as many fly balls as ground balls in his career. I bet you can guess, because he pitched for the Mets.
It's got to be Sid.
Of course, yeah. Sid Fernandez, the only other pitcher besides Chris Young who has that 2-to-1 fly ball to ground ball ratio since they lowered the mound. Hunter Pence sitting at 286, and he takes a letter high strike.
Well, Sid, what doesn't go into the equation is how many foul balls did he get straight back to home plate?
Little tapper, and Nickius will go out to get it. 2 out. So 2 out and nobody on in the second. Well, there is the career distribution of outs. You see only 23% ground ball outs. Since he joined the Mets, Young has yet to generate a ground ball double play.
Yeah, right. 42 chances. You know, the thing about Sid, though, is that Sid was such a good pitcher. But if he was on getaway day, other than Steve Traxel when I was here earlier, guys would get in a bad mood. They'd get sad. Sid's got what? He's pitching Sunday? No way.
Well, Sunday was okay. With the night game. Are you kidding? Having Sid on a getaway day on the West Coast, a night game, flat to fly home. No, thank you.
1-1 to Shane Victorino, who had an 8-game hitting streak stopped last night. Went 0 for 4. Phillies managed just 3 hits last night. No matter how hard you try, and Victorino just tried, you can't get on top of that fastball.
Well, for the fans at home that are watching this game, see how many pitches out of the strike zone these Phillies hit at. There's no secret here. Everybody knows he pitches upstairs. I mean, can you be disciplined enough to lay off that pitch? There's Sid.
Well, Sid Fernandez had himself quite a career as a Met.
I forgot that he had 98 wins. So I had 99.
Yeah.
He had 98. That's a shame that both of us couldn't have gotten over 100. Oh, well.
What did we traded Sid for?
A few more hits by you. I might have got
Bob
to 100.
Baylor and Carlos Diaz.
Carlos Diaz.
Wright coming over toward the dugout. Has room. Side retired. 6 up and 6 down for Chris Young to start this July 4th game. No score in the second. Brought to you by Brooklyn Burger, the premium steakhouse burger and the official burger of the New York Mets. Be sure to visit Keith's Grill at Citi Field, located on the field level behind Section 132 and the promenade level behind home plate, to enjoy Keith Hernandez's favorite Brooklyn burgers.
And you can tell Javier and I had a wonderful time. A lot of passion and went into those burgers.
And a lot of dripping coming out of the burger.
Well, that's the good
juicy.
part. You know, you're not eating those for if you're on a diet.
Scott Harriston leads off in the home second. And Lee quickly ahead on Harriston 0-2. I mean, it is the 4th of July. People are going to be barbecuing today. Do you have any particular grilling tips to share, Keith?
Well, it depends on the individual. Some like it medium well. Some like it medium rare, medium. I like mine a little pink inside. You can put your finger and touch the meat.
You touch the meat that
yes.
I'm going to eat later?
Well, no. Only mine.
Okay. Strike 3 call. Lee came to the same spot he did against Wright to get his 3rd straight strikeout.
Now, alternately here, watching Cliff Lee, we said when you're watching Chris Young upstairs, watch Cliff Lee to the right-handers, in particular, how much he pitches inside, you folks at home. He is aggressive inside. Now, if you're on the bench, on the Met bench, he's got 3 strikeouts in a row. They've all been inside corner to right-hand hitters. I think I would kind of file that, maybe.
Duda breaks his bat. Rollins goes behind the bag and has enough time to throw him out. A nice evasive maneuver by Cliff Lee to avoid getting struck by bat or ball.
Okay. Well, he wants the ball away, and it comes in. And that's a slider out over the plate. He just pulled off the end of the bat. Nice easy hop for Rollins, former Gold Glover.
Boy, Jimmy's
2 hands.
Yeah, he's got great form. Always has.
You can't go wrong with the Dos Manos.
So Lee has thrown 9 straight strikes. He's retired the first 5 batters he's faced. And that streak ends as Ike Davis takes ball 1. Ike was not supposed to be in the lineup today. At least that was what Terry Collins said at about 10:30 this morning. And he takes a strike. Let's check in with Eamon McEnany, who's filling in for Kevin Burkhardt. Eamon?
Well, Gary, I had a chance to speak with Terry Collins right before the game, and he had a couple of factors why he put Ike back in the lineup. First, he thought with so many lefties in the Philly bullpen, as Ike grounds it back, Cliff Lee can't make the play here. Tough play for Utley, and Lee and Davis is going to beat it out for an infield hit. Terry Collins, three factors. One, with so many lefties coming out of the bullpen, he wanted a righty bat on the bench, so he decided to sit Ronnie Cedeno instead of playing him at second. The second reason was he wants to get Ike Davis going against both righties and lefties. He needs that bat going from both sides against both pitchers for the rest of the season. He wants to get Ike really getting consistently hot. And, of course, it helps him defensively to have Ike at first. So originally, as you mentioned, when he met with the media earlier today about 10:30, he was going to sit Ike against Cliff Lee and play Cedeno at second. But he wanted a righty coming off the bench, and he wanted to keep sending Ike out there against Cliff Lee.
Well, the 60-foot roller counts as staying hot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that Ike is one of your better players. He's got to play every day. I mean, that's just how it works.
Well, certainly that was the plan when the year began, and only because he got off to such a slow start did he begin sitting against lefties.
That's a play that usually Cliff Lee is one of the best athletes in the National League, makes in his back pocket, but missed it that time.
Well, I feel that Davis has to play every day now. Let him go out there and baptism under fire. Now, if you're going to give spot rest someone every now and again, or maybe Duda against a tough left-hander, but you look at the Mets bench, the only two right-handers they have are infielders in Turner and Cedeno.
Torres hits it out to right, and Pence is right there, and that retires the side. So Davis picks up the first hit of the game. No score after two. Nice to take Cruz past the Chrysler Building, the prettiest building in New York.
Quietest day in the city.
Until tonight, when the fireworks start on the Hudson. Let's take a drive around the majors presented by Audi. Last night, Coco Crisp hit a homer in the first and the game-winning sac fly in the bottom of the ninth as the A's beat the Red Sox 3-2. Kevin Youkilis a homer in his home debut with the White Sox as they rout the Rangers 19-2, and Wei-Yin Chen 6 1/3 perfect, but they needed a ninth-inning home run from Robert Andino to beat Seattle 5-4. And this afternoon, the Nats up 7-4 on Madison Bumgarner and the Giants as they play in the seventh. Placido Polanco leads off in the third against Chris Young and takes a curveball for a strike.
Chris got a good breaking ball today, Keith.
I like his breaking ball, and he can throw that backdoor curveball to lefties on the outside corner, but it also gives him now an up and down the ladder style of pitching. It's a good, effective weapon for him.
Polanco hitting at .270, but 0 for his last 12 for a Phillies team that has been struggling in all aspects of the game and losing 6 in a row. John Mayberry hitting 8th in the order, and then Cliff Lee for the Phillies in the third.
Let's see if he goes fastball in after 2 breaking balls. No, back out.
And another fly ball, this one to right center. And Torres calling all the way, but Duda comes over and makes the catch. Funny, isn't it? Duda's been so tentative going after balls like that. Torres was calling all the way, but this time Duda didn't relent.
Well, I'm glad to see it because this is Lucas's ball, even though he's getting called off. So luckily no one collided, no one got hurt, and the putout was taken care of.
No one gets hurt, but something's going to have to be fixed here because this could happen someday. Not only an injury could happen, but also a ball could be dropped in a crucial situation.
And by the way, I don't think Andres would get the best of that.
Yeah, he'd lose.
Well, the thing about it is, and we were talking about it earlier in relation to Torres and the way he has gone back more aggressively on balls in this series, all the Met outfielders have at times been a little tentative, whether it be Nieuwenhuis, whether it be Duda, whether it be Torres. And I think they've all been told to be a little more aggressive, and I think we saw it from both men on that play.
Yep.
Torres knowing that any ball in the gap belongs to him if he can get there, and Duda never stopping.
It's enough to make you bite your fingernails, like Mr. Harriston out there. Get you nervous.
John Mayberry 0 for 3 last night, playing first base this afternoon. Cliff Lee, pretty good hitting pitcher, waiting on deck.
Well, they're just giving Mayberry a steady diet of fastballs.
Well, you know, of all the pitchers, all of them, the starting pitchers prepare for each game, but I don't think anyone prepares better than this young man.
Now we'll go to the breaking ball, and he gets Mayberry on strikes. First strikeout of the afternoon for Chris Young.
It's that good breaking ball again, Keith. Plenty of fastballs, all set up by that curveball that starts in the same place and has that late break. I'm just talking about Chris Young is that he gets together a Bible of information on every team he's going to face, and not only facing them when they're up, facing them when they have people on base, what their tendencies are to swing at first pitch with runners on base, all of those things.
Pretty good hitter right here in Cliff Lee. You know, I had a chat with Chris Young in the clubhouse, and he is such a gentleman, such a pleasure, such a class act. Always pleasant.
And Lee pokes one to shortstop. And so for the second straight start, Young has pitched perfectly through the first 3 innings. Did against the Dodgers his last start, and again this afternoon, 9 up and 9 down. season. Subscribe to MLB.tv today to see every Mets out-of-market game live online and on your favorite devices in HD quality. Visit Mets.com to order and get more details. MLB.tv, baseball everywhere. Inside Pitch on Cliff Lee, brought to you by the Xerox business of baseball. Xerox, ready for real business.
Well, stay away from ball one. When he was 1-0 in the count last season, hitters would hit 220, 230. This year, they're hitting 360 plus. Use his curveball more. He won't use it the first time through the lineup. Second time through the lineup, you'll see it a lot more. It is A-plus quality. And Phillies need an ace-like effort. And what I mean by that, occasionally when you pay these young men what you pay them, this is a day where you've lost 6 straight to the Phillies. You need your best pitcher or one of your best pitchers to go out and say, hey, guys, give me 1 or 2, and I'll take care of the rest.
The problem might be the 1 or 2 the way the Phillies are going right now.
That's right.
Mike Nickius leads off in the home third. Nickius making his 29th start of the season, hitting at 182. He leads so far 18 strikes, 7 balls, and that's even better than his overall strike percentage, which is tied for the best in the league. 69% of his pitches have gone for strikes this year. That's tied with R.A. Dickey for the National League lead. Imagine that, a knuckleballer tied for the league lead and throwing strikes.
That's why he's one of the greatest stories in the game.
That's one more facet of the R.A. Dickey phenomenon. Ball and a strike to Nickius. R.A. makes the start tomorrow night in the final game of the series. And it has become an event when R.A. starts are on the docket. It'll be his last start before his All-Star appearance next Tuesday. And Nickius pops one up on the infield. Who's going to take it? Utley taking charge. Nobody else seemed to want it, and Utley hurried in to make sure it wouldn't fall. So 1 out and nobody out. Let's check in with Eamon McEnany.
All right, Gary, I'm out here at the Verizon studio for Ask the Booth. Jerry from the Upper West Side. His main question wants to know Keith's mode of transportation back and forth from the game, but he also has a baseball question for you guys.
Gentlemen, do you believe that because David Wright didn't get into the All-Star game as a starter, do you believe that he should get in because the fans vote? We voted for him, and I don't understand why he's not in.
Well, he actually got outvoted by the fans, and that's the problem. More fans voted for Sandoval than voted for Wright, and maybe that means the next year Met fans make a concerted effort to stuff the ballot box, as clearly the Giant fans did.
But every year there's always more than a few guys that don't make the starting team that should, and that's one of the problems with the fan vote. It is what it is.
Well, they also think sometimes what happens with your guy when you know, David Wright is your guy. So you're thinking to yourself, who would be crazy enough to vote for anyone but David Wright? Well, San Francisco did.
Well, here's, and I think Sandy Alderson alluded to this in his tweet yesterday. Sandoval, they sell those little panda hats in San Francisco. Maybe we need a hat associated with David. Little bloop down the right field line, and that goes foul right into the ball boy's glove.
Is that Anthony?
Nice grab.
No. I think David would put an ixnay on the special cap.
Probably so.
Well, he already had the great Gazoo, for crying out loud. One's enough.
Maybe that's an idea. Maybe they market the David Wright Great Gazoo helmet. It probably doesn't have the panache of the panda head. But David will be going to Kansas City for the All-Star game, and that in itself is quite an honor. Little dribbler down to third, and Polanco with plenty of time gets Chris Young for the second out.
I've also seen in the past in All-Star games where a certain player will get the votes to be the starter, and you obviously know the guy who's not the starter has been the best player all year, and that guy who starts the game will get one at bat and hit the showers. You put the other guy in for the rest of the game.
By the way, speaking of All-Stars, yesterday Chipper Jones, who had been on that final vote thing, was named to the All-Star team to replace the injured Matt Kemp. And then to celebrate that, Chipper last night went out and went 5 for 5 with 4 RBIs. How about that?
Yeah, I belong.
At 40 years old, he is still the linchpin of that Atlanta lineup. When he plays and performs, they win. Here's Ruben Tejada, who flied to center his first time up.
There's the tape You can see right there. I think that's, you see his bottom. And I think it's more of a marker, Gare, for him to where he wants to choke up.
Yeah, it's not as though he's leaning his hand against a second knob there. Otherwise, he'd make the top of that tape a little thicker, I think.
Or he could get a bat that's an inch shorter.
Well, you know, well, that's true. The theory on choking up is you have more bat control. And let's face it, Ruben has been very, very disciplined this year. He's doing what he has to do. And that's just hit the ball, keep the ball out of the air. Line drives on the ground.
Line into left center, and there's Tejada with his first hit of the day. Who's going to pick it up? Finally, Victorino does, and Tejada heads for second and arrives safely with a double. Well, that's a bad outfield play by the Phillies. Pierre and Victorino staring at each other to try and figure out who's going to pick up the ball. Meanwhile, Tejada winds up with 2 bases.
That's Tejada's 13th triple of the year. And hustling for the 2.
You've got to know the situation if you're an outfielder. You can sometimes stop guys from going to 2 with hustling to the baseball, because you know Ruben Tejada's thinking that with 2 outs, I got to try to get to second base if they allow me to.
Kind of gets his hands in, I guess, inside the ball, rushed his hands through to hit that inside pitch.
Well, last night the Mets with runners in scoring position were 7 for 12. And Daniel Murphy had a big part of that.
Well, they had 2 more runs scored with 2 outs last night.
Murphy went down looking his first time up today, but he's got 14 RBIs in his last 5 starts. Trying to pick up Tejada from second with 2 out.
He's painting that outside corner.
Not only that, RBI situation, 2 outs. You think maybe he's going to get a little cute here. 2 fastballs right there.
Well, see if he wastes one or comes inside to get him now.
Yeah, nice stop by Ruiz. A ball and 2 strikes. Yeah, we talked earlier about the fact that Lee's kind of been here before. Go back to last year. He's made 13 starts this year, and obviously he doesn't have a win. But last year, first 13 starts, he was very pedestrian. 5-5, 3.62. Rest of the year, 12-3, 1.67. Yeah, so there's no reason that he might not kick it in gear as he did last year.
He will.
Problem is, we got the big bomber out of the lineup and Ryan Howard, and Utley just trying to get his feet wet back in the lineup.
And Lee handles this comebacker and takes care of Murphy to end the inning. So a double and 1 left. We've played 3 now on the 4th of July with no score at Citi Field. Listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. Night game with the Phillies tomorrow with Dickey against Hamels. Then the Cubs come in for the last weekend before the All-Star break. After the break, the Mets are in Atlanta and Washington for 2 key series to get the second half started.
That's an odd starting time on Saturday at 4 o'clock.
I hadn't noticed that.
So why is that? Is it because of national?
Yeah. With Fox TV.
Much like the start in Washington today? They're in the 8th inning already.
How about that? Jimmy Rollins pops one up and Tejada takes charge. 1 out. Yeah, they started at 11 o'clock in the morning today in D.C.
You know, I was saying that in Boston on Patriot Day they always start at 11 because of the marathon, but you informed me that in AAA they routinely play morning games.
Yeah, now they play 10:30 in the morning on getaway day. Remember when you used to have a getaway day in the minors, you'd stay over and get up at 4 in the morning for the first flight out. Now they play the morning game, they get out that day.
Get up maybe, Gary. Maybe.
Your body may get up, but your mind may be lagging behind.
No, it might have been a continué s'il vous plaît from the night before.
See what you're saying. Yeah, that happened a few times. 2-0 to Juan Pierre, who flied out his first time up.
I tell you what, that game in Washington in the bottom of the 8th, it's tough getting up for that one at 11 o'clock. But I tell you what, you're on the streets at around 3:30.
On the streets.
Well, you know, D.C. 4th of July is a big deal there. Got that concert they put on every year.
That's right.
Down by the mall.
The fireworks near the memorial, where, I mean, what do they usually get? Routinely,
hundreds of thousands,
yeah,
sure. 3-1 from Young. And he pours one over, and for the second straight at bat, Pierre was ready to go to first base on a 3-1 pitch that was called a strike.
Well, Tim Timmons, I think, at least on the 3-1 counts, has opened up that strike zone.
And Pierre responds by slapping one through the hole for the Phillies' first hit of the day.
And that was ball 4, too, I tell you.
So after Young had retired the first 10, Pierre's got a base hit. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com.
Look at the spin on that breaking ball.
That's sweet. I love that. I just absolutely love it. That was a curve that struck out Mayberry. 19 stolen bases for Pierre. Got to keep him close.
And Young has a hard time doing that. For his career, opposing base stealers have stolen nearly 91% success rate against Young.
Successful 147 out of 162 times. And in this lineup for the Phillies tonight, and they have routinely been so great at their percentage, 57 stolen bases, only caught 10 times.
Pierre 19 of 22 and has more stolen bases than any active player. 573 steals for his career.
Look at David Wright really giving that line over at third base. So Utley, remember when he came up, sprayed the ball all over. He's become a pull hitter.
Here goes Pierre, first pitch. Nikias with a good pitch to throw, but he's safe anyway. 20th stolen base of the year for Juan Pierre.
I'll tell you what, strong throw by Nikias, right on the money. But as you said, Gary, that 6'10" frame and slow delivery home by Young. He just gets the hand in there.
How about Tejada almost getting the foot in there to get Pierre to have to go to the outside of that bag.
Nice positioning. Slow-mo there.
I'll tell you what, if you come in feet first, that'll get that foot out of the way.
It will.
For Juan Pierre, 12 straight years now of 20 or more stolen bases.
How many times have you had to say in the last 5 or 6 seasons that you have to go after Utley right here with Chuch Ruiz in the on-deck circle?
Well, normally it would be Howard hitting behind him. Young behind 2-0, and Utley smacks one to right center field. Back in the gap goes Torres onto the track, and he runs it down. Tagging at second, Pierre. He'll take third, but another nice play by Torres getting deep in the gap to retire Utley for the second out.
Which, to me, brings up a point here. How this ballpark can really play in the favor of the Mets. A home field advantage. It's a bigger park. That ball's out in Philadelphia. There's no question. It's a 2-run shot. Let all these big boppers come in here and try to wail.
I'll take it a step further. With all the injuries that Utley's had, he centered that baseball and didn't hit it out of the park.
So now runner at third with 2 out, and Carlos Ruiz coming up. Ruiz flied to left his first time up. Scoreless game in the 4th, and Young trying to keep it that way. And again, Ruiz first pitch swinging, flies one out to right center. Who's going to take this one? And Duda grabs it, side retired. So Young works around his first base runner of the day. No score as we head to the bottom of the 4th. Beautiful day. Baseball, then barbecue. I like those bacon wrapped burgers there. That was a very nice touch. Well, that leads us to our Dialed In presented by Verizon, which is Keith's opportunity to provide his take on a subject of choice. And today, well, the topic is barbecue.
Well, you know, I've always been a lamb guy. I love lamb, and I always recall the butcher in Southampton at Schmidt's Butchery, and they ask for whatever it is, 8, 10 people, whatever you got over the house, nice butterfly lamb. You get it the day before. You put that French mustard on it, the country mustard with the beads in there, and you just saturate it with the mustard. A little bit of a virgin olive oil on it first. You can put whatever herbs you want on there. Let it go overnight in the fridge. High flame on the grill, 2 minutes on each side to char it. Then put it on low. 5 minutes on each side. Oh, delicious.
Nice grab by Chase Utley, retiring David Wright. Now, what I want to know is, Keith, is there a particular amount of time you need to marinate the lamb in order to get the perfect saturation?
Oh, it's overnight. Okay. So the mustard has that flavor, kind of goes into the lamb, and it is delicious. And then you can also go get the organic vegetables and the kind you can grill. Nothing better than grilled vegetables. A little bit of oil on the vegetables and grill them on a high flame. Onions, and you've got a meal. And have the women do the salad. I don't do that.
Have the women do the salad.
Well, that'll get you in trouble. There's a strike to Harriston. Let me ask you this question, just to try and change the subject. Are you a charcoal guy or a gas guy?
Gas. I have a real nice gas.
Do you find there's as much flavor with gas as you get with charcoal?
Well, if you have the right herbs. I have an herb garden in my backyard, so the herbs are right there. So, a little rosemary, thyme, sage, off the charts, trust me. But I'm a lamb guy.
Do you tend the the herb garden yourself?
I go in there with my scissors and I snip them, yes.
Very nice. Here's the 0-2 to Harriston, and he drives one to deep left field. Back goes Pierre, looking up, and it's out of here! The Mets lefty buster strikes again. Number 11 for Scott Harriston. 8 of the 11 against left-handers. And the Mets take the lead 1-0.
He marinated that high fastball.
He sure did. And I tell you what, he has been such a positive force for this team. And again, it's going to be a high fastball. And he wanted to come in, Grani, and where'd he get it? Right down the pipe. And he crushed it.
What a bullet. On an 0-2 pitch. Lee gets grilled.
You don't have many home runs hit that on the line that get out of the ballpark that quickly.
Duda smacks one in the right for a base hit. So back-to-back hard hits against Cliff Lee. The Mets are having quite a battle for the club lead in home runs. Davis has 11. Duda has 11. Now Harriston has 11. Wright has 10.
Yep. So all of them are on a pace for 20, and this is what I think going in, Sandy Alderson projected, and Terry Collins from this middle, as far as the home runs are concerned.
Mike Davis had an infield hit his first time up, and he takes a cutter for a strike.
Ike has toned down his questioning of calls. It just that I agree with him right there. I thought that pitch was outside. It's only one strike. Let it go.
And the curveball, one of the very few that Lee has been throwing, is in for a strike. Lee barely threw his curveball at all in his last start against Miami, a game in which he got touched up for 6 runs in 4 2/3. Now the 1-2, and Davis bloops one foul.
I was just thinking that you just kind of eliminated 95% of the dads out there who are going with hamburgers and hot dogs after that soliloquy about the lamb.
The lamb. Well, lamb is delicious. And then if you have leftovers, they make great sandwiches.
Strike 3 called, and Lee has his 4th strikeout.
Well, after the couple of breaking balls to get ahead, fastball up and in to jam him, he came with the fastball away, and that just I got set up. It happens.
Ronnie, this reminded me of that great line from my Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes.
You don't eat meat? It's okay, I make lamb.
That's right.
Here's Andres Torres, who flied out to right his first time up. Lee has 4 strikeouts. All 4 have been called third strikes today. And Torres takes the first pitch strike. Well, Roy Halladay sitting on the disabled list right now and was struggling before he went out with that lat strain in late May. And of course, Lee's still looking for his first victory.
7-17 in their starts.
Well,
it's hardly what you'd expect.
Flip it, and that's what you'd expect, right?
Boy, I tell you, a lot of guys in the fantasy leagues got burned. I bet you.
Well, Cole Hamels has held up his end of the bargain, but really nobody else on that starting staff has. In fact, over the last 43 games, the Phillies starters have an ERA of 5.22. Who would have ever thought that for a period of more than a quarter of a season? Just missed to Torres, 1-2. Andres flying to right his first time up. Lee throwing nothing but strikes today. 41 of his 54 pitches have been strikes. But he got one up and right out over the plate against Harriston, and it cost him the first run of the game. 1-2 to Torres. And Andres takes strike 3 called. A high strike called by Tim Timmons to end the inning. So 5 called third strikes for Lee, but 1 line drive home run for Scott Harriston. Harriston with his 11th of the year. And the Mets give Chris Young a 1-0 lead after 4. Game of the series, a couple of all-stars. All right, Dickey having as good a year as anybody in the game, going up against Cole Hamels, who has been the anchor of the Phillies rotation this year. Quite a pitching matchup on tap for tomorrow night. And what a contrast. Stylish lefty against hard-throwing knuckleballer. Hunter Pence lines a base hit to open the Phillies top of the 5th. Just the second hit for the Phils against Chris Young.
I tell you what, if I'm a starting pitcher, Ronnie, correct me if I'm wrong, I would love to be in Young's spot in the rotation in front of Dickey, who's on a roll, because you're in a situation like this, your offense, I can tell you from my experience, is, hey, we win today, we got our ace going tomorrow, we're looking at a sweep.
Yeah, the only place to be better than before RA is to be after RA. Have to face that knuckleball. Don't be surprised with a little bunt here by Victorino.
Well, Pence, 4 stolen bases on the year, caught twice. You could hit and run too here. I mean, the Phillies got to make something happen.
You have to think they're going to run at every opportunity with Young on the mound.
Exactly.
Popped it up, and again, right will have room. Well, second time Victorino's fouled out to right. That's the first out of the inning. I mean, it's kind of like when Dwight Gooden was pitching. The only vulnerability Doc had was the susceptibility to the running game.
Yeah, but his was less than Chris because he could punch people out.
Right. Here's Polanco, flied out to right his first time up.
Doc had a pretty deceptive move to first base for a right-hander. He got better with it. And I think I remember Mel tinkering with him, getting a little bit quicker home.
He started holding his hands up high in the stretch.
Mel Stoudemire, of course, pitching coach.
Well, 14 outs so far. Sorry, 13 outs so far by Mr. Young, 9 of them in the air.
Status quo.
Right.
And Polanco takes a strike.
I mean, Polanco's a good guy to hit and run with. Sometimes, hitters are not in a groove. The line drive hitters that use all the field that sometimes make them swing the bat. The Phillies just can't play one base at a time.
Well, Murphy's really hugging up the middle, isn't he? Especially on a guy like Polanco. This is favorite to go through that hole between first and second.
Pulls it down to third. It comes up for right. He stays with it. Murphy with the turn, and they get the double play. Beautifully done. On a tough hop, Wright starts it, and Murphy completes it. First ground ball double play Chris Young's ever gotten as a Met. And a thing of beauty to get him through the top of the fifth. Which Philly hit the game-winning 3-run homer in the 1964 All-Star game at Shea? And I know you know, Keith, but don't flirt.
I know it too. A little guy, left-hand hitter.
Only All-Star game ever played at Shea Stadium.
Isn't that something?
In its opening year.
All those years.
Mike Nickius takes a strike, but the All-Star game returns to Flushing next year. It's going to be quite the extravaganza. I mean, so much has changed in what it entails to put on an All-Star week compared to 1964. Then they just showed up, played the game in the afternoon, and they were done.
That's right.
Now it's a week-long festival.
The Futures game starts on Sunday. You have the Home Run Derby on Monday.
And all sorts of ancillary events going around town as Nickius strikes out. That's 3 straight strikeouts for Lee and his 6th of the day. Let's go back to that double play that ended at the top of the 5th.
Well, 2 nice plays. Notice that David has his glove down. He catches the ball really in the bicep, in the crease between his the joint, the elbow joint.
Who needs a glove?
And the key is he stayed in front. And the body can also, on a bad hop like that, the body acts as a backstop. And also, Murph. Now remember, Murph's had 2 injuries on his knees playing second base, and that was kind of fearless right there. It was a nice turn.
But he's learned a lot, hasn't he, Murph, about how to get out of the way coming across the bag like that.
Well, I think he completely caught Pence by surprise by coming across the bag as strongly as he did the inside of the bag.
Ball was hit so quickly. I think that part of that was Murph getting to the bag. You know, it was kind of a timing play for him. Momentum brought him across the bag, but able to get rid of that ball quickly.
Oh, I tell you what, I must confess, I was very, very skeptical about Murph when they announced he was going to be starting at second base. And I'm I'm a defensive guy, and I said it's too important a position up the middle. And of course, of 162 games, it's just going to come up and show. And glaringly, but I tell you what, he has worked so hard, and he has not been He's had a couple bad games early, but his defense has just improved.
Young lifts one to shallow right, and Pence is right there. 2 out. The SNY Play Ball Award recently helped the Lower East Side Girls Club expand their program. The $5,000 grant was used to create 2 new teams, opening up free access for even more girls. To find out more about their story and those of past recipients, go to sny.tv/playball. 2 out and nobody on is Ruben Tejada, who doubled to left center his last time up. In addition to all his other exploits this year, Ruben's now hitting .400 against lefties. Well, Cliff Lee has now faced 19 batters today and thrown a first pitch strike to 16 of the 19.
Yeah.
And Tejada takes one up the middle, and he's got another multiple hit game.
Well, I tell you what, he keeps on swinging the bat like this, and he's going to stay in that leadoff spot.
Why not?
He likes the ball down. That ball was a mistake right there out over the middle, but you know what? You got to hit them. You got to hit those mistakes.
So the Mets have their 5th hit against Lee, and now Murphy is 0 for 2. Took a call third strike in the first, and then hit a comebacker to Lee in the third.
Remember now, Murph has been pounded away with that fastball and slider the first 2 at bats. This is a tactical move on Murph's part here. Now the battle's in motion.
Wow.
Well, Cliff Lee right up among the league leaders in first pitch strikes all year. Just threw a first pitch ball for a rarity. And another cutter off the plate, and Murph hacks at it 1-1.
Leslie Wright wish he hadn't thrown a strike last night to the Pittsburgh Pirates in that game. Walk-off home run.
Pirates have been amazing, haven't they? Drew Sutton with the game-winning home run in the bottom of the 9th. And all of a sudden they are starting to come out in droves at PNC Park, which is nice to see.
That's great.
In fact, the Pirates, their last winning season was 1992, and they are now 8 games over 500 for the first time since 1992. Best team in the state of Pennsylvania. 2 balls and a strike to Murphy. There are the standings in the National League Central. Pirates tying for first with that win last night.
Cardinals kind of righted their ship a little bit. Remember, they got off hot and then they kind of floundered.
And the Brewers are a lot closer than they were a couple of weeks ago. Lined over Utley, base hit. Tejada tearing around second, and he'll go to third. So Murphy with a rising line drive for his first hit of the day, and the Mets have first and third for David Wright.
Well, Cliff Lee wanting to stay away a little bit to 1 pitch too many. Slider in a good spot, and Murph lets go with one hand. That's good hitting. But Murph has not been pounded inside once.
So a chance for Wright, who lined out to Utley his last time up.
Well, we'll see what David does here. We'll see what Cliff Lee does if he comes aggressive in on David. I'd look middle in for a strike.
And the breaking ball on the outside corner, one of the few curveballs Lee's thrown all day.
And the first one he's thrown to right.
And a good one to take. It's okay. I'm 0-1. Now I got to go hit. I got to bear down.
Will he double up on the curveball?
Ruiz wants the fastball inside. It got out over the plate a little bit, and David fouls it off.
All of a sudden, Cliff Lee, Ronnie, is starting to leave that ball over the middle a little bit, not getting it in when he needs to.
That is a key to a winless season.
Yeah.
Runners in scoring position and 2 out. They have hit him very hard. And of course, that's been the Mets' specialty this year.
Well, good time for Chooch to go out and talk to him, because the catcher knows you missed.
Well, not only did he miss, but the home run by Harriston was on an 0-2 pitch. Let's make sure of this time. The elite pitchers of the game, or I should say, Lee's one of the elite pitchers of the game. When you're having an elite pitcher kind of year, that number with runners in scoring position is low 200s in the 100s.
Not like it's been for Santana this year. 0-2 now to right. And David takes that fastball high out of the strike zone.
Well, usually the way to go in sequence of pitches, fastball up, bounce a curveball.
Oh, they already had a sequence of pitches, didn't they?
Little bloop to shallow right, and that's going to fall for a base hit. Tejada's in to score. Murphy goes to third. David Wright with a little dunk shot into right to drive in a run, and it's 2-0 New York.
Well, it wasn't a fastball up curveball, it was fastball change.
And you know what? Sometimes it isn't fair. Nice hitting by David. He was set up that way. David with 2 strikes doing the proper thing, going up the middle. End of the bat.
I know it's hard for you Met fans to believe, but that's another 2-out run.
179 of them this year, the most in the National League. And for David Wright, his 55th run batted in. He started the day 6th in the league in RBIs with a recent tear. In fact, for Wright, that's now 13 RBIs in his last 6 games. So 3 straight 2-out hits, and now Scott Harriston, who drilled a home run for the Mets' first run, gets another chance against Lee. First pitch swinging, and Murph gets tagged by the foul ball. Now that's why you take your lead in foul territory. If it hits you in fair ground, you're out. But it still stings even if it's a foul ball.
Well, he's on the dirt, and you don't have to be on the dirt. You can be on the grass. I never like to be on the dirt. I know it's a little wider than it was when I played, but you can get a little wider. He's a little wider now out there. You just get the heck out of the way.
Especially as hard as Harriston has been hitting the ball. Chases a high one that time. Scott now with 11 home runs, 8 of the 11 against left-handers. Nobody in the majors has hit more home runs against lefties than has Harriston. Ryan Braun, who's had a lot more playing time than Harriston, has 8 as well. Final in Washington in that 11 a.m. game. The Nats beat the Giants 9-4. They had 4 home runs today.
So the Nats have won 3 in a row.
And that's back-to-back 9s against that Giant pitching staff, which is hard to do.
That is their 47th win of the season on 32 losses.
Well, the Mets try to stay 3.5 back with a win today. And Harriston gets one off the end of the bat to center. And Victorino there. Side retired, but the Mets put together 3 straight 2-out hits. David Wright with an RBI single. 2-0 New York after 5. He asked who hit the game-winning 3-run homer for the National League at the Shea Stadium All-Star game in '64. And of course, it was Johnny Callison, fine right fielder, All-Star for the Phillies.
What was his number? He had a single-digit number. Do you recall?
6, maybe?
I think it was 6.
Did you? You said he's a little guy.
He was a tiny little.
Really?
Yeah.
5'10", 175.
Wow.
Played 16 big league seasons. Mayberry pops one up. Nicky is coming back for a look, but that's out of play. Callison actually, he finished his career as a Yankee.
That's right.
Played for them in '72 and '73. His best year was 1964, 31 homers, 104 RBIs, hit .274. The year he hit that All-Star home run.
Of course, that was back in the days when the National League was dominant in All-Star games.
The senior circuit, as it was known in the day.
Again, the 1-2, and the curveball struck him out. Chris Young with his second strikeout of the day. Both have been against Mayberry. 1 out and nobody on. Let's check in with the studio. Chris Carlin has this game break. All right, Chris. Now Cliff Lee comes to bat and takes a strike. Lee bounced out his first time up. One more note on Johnny Callison. I did not realize this. He finished second in the MVP voting that year to Ken Boyer, your old manager.
Well, if the Phillies hadn't collapsed, he probably would have been the MVP.
That's a good point.
Wow. Gene Mauch, of course, the famous going to the 3-man rotation the last month of the season, or 5 weeks. Jim Bunning, Chris Short, and I can't think of the other starter.
Robin Roberts?
Was it Dennis Bennett? I think he took Bennett out of the rotation.
Well, he pitched Short and Bunning on short rest those last 2 weeks.
Was Art Mahaffey still on the team? I believe he was.
Yep. Lee pokes one into shallow left center, and Tejada out to grab it. 2 out. So 2 out and nobody on. Chris Young keeps rolling. Let's check in with Eamon McEnany.
Well, you know, guys, if this script here today plays out, Chris Young gets the win. It'll be his 3rd win of the season for the first time since 2009. Obviously coming back from the same surgery that Johan Santana did. I had a chance to speak to Santana earlier today about the way Chris Young's been performing with the Mets so far this year. And what's blowing Santana away is the fact that when he was at this point in his comeback, Santana was throwing in instructional league games, and down in Florida wasn't, really competing. And for him to watch Young compete here in the major leagues at this point in his comeback for a team that's contending, that's what's really impressed Santana about Young and how he's really been able to do it, bear down, while at the same point, be coming back from that surgery when Santana at the same point was throwing games that didn't really count.
It is really an amazing thing how both of them have been able to rebound from a surgery that really no other pitcher has fully recovered from. Gets the pop up here, and Nicky is out to grab it. And an easy 1-2-3 inning for Chris Young. He's through 6, working on a 2-hit shutout. 2-0 New York. Back in time and see rare footage of Big Shea's big debut and get an inside look at the Mets' third season. Mets Yearbook 1964. Tonight at 6:30 only on SNY. Seems to be our theme today. With the 64 All-Star game.
Right.
Now talking about the first year of Shea Stadium.
Well, didn't the Mets in the final week of the season beat the Cardinals?
They did. Al Jackson pitched a shutout on that Friday night that final weekend. Beat them 1-0.
Right.
Wow.
They did their best for the Phillies.
They did. The Phillies just said, "Uh-uh."
Lucas Duda leads off in the home sixth inning against Cliff Lee, who's generally a lock to go at least 6. At least he was until his last start against the Marlins. Lee had thrown 23 consecutive starts in which he'd gone 6 innings or more until he got knocked out in the 5th against Miami his last time out. Duda had a base hit to right field his last time up, 1 for 2 on the day. And he foul tips that one, 0-2. It'll be Duda, Davis, and Torres for the Mets in the home sixth. Now the 0-2 from Lee, and he ties up Duda. A ball and 2 strikes. What an odd year for an ace pitcher. About to go to the All-Star break. This is his final start before the break. And unless his team has a rally in them, has a chance to go to the All-Star break winless. Just missed with the curveball, 2-2. Now he did miss a couple of weeks with an oblique injury on the disabled list, but remember he came back off the deal against the Mets and pitched very well. That was back in early May, and things have only tumbled down for him from there. Can you relate at all to what he's going through right now?
I can. In 1987, after Dwight went into Smithers, and then we started to lose pitcher after pitcher after pitcher, I think I went 14 or 15 consecutive games without a decision. And I will tell you, I was feeling the heat because it wasn't that I was pitching particularly poorly, but just could not win a game. Well, Lee got ahead of Duda, a little slider, coupled it up with a little cutter. Now it's 0-2. And this has kind of been the theme for him. He has not been able to finish hitters off. Fastball up, curveball in the dirt, another cutter away that doesn't work, and this one down and away. 0-2 has not been Lee's friend this afternoon.
First walk of the day for either side. Mets have the leadoff man on, and Davis hits a ground ball that could be 2 if they hurry. Utley has to make the turn and dropped at first base by Mayberry. Yeah, it looked like it was in time to get Davis for the double play, but Mayberry just flat out dropped the throw.
It was in time. Charlie's going to have a cow.
Gee, I mean, come on, this is basic pitch and catch.
He might have. Oh, it was a close play. He beat it. High base goes to the runner. Doesn't matter.
Look at Mayberry's eyes, though. They're not on the baseball or his glove. You got to watch that if you're a starting pitcher, because everything inside you is saying, how could you not make that play, but you can't let your teammates show it. See it, I mean.
There's Andres Torres with Davis at first. The question is, did Jeff Kellogg think that Davis had beaten the play? Was he going to call him safe anyway, or did he only call him safe because he dropped the throw? Because it certainly appeared as though on the replay that Davis did beat the throw anyway. Torres is flying out and taking a call third strike, 0 for 2, and he slashes that one off the fence in front of the dugout.
So here's the play again. Nice stretch, but extend the arms too with your glove, you kids. There you go. That's what did it. He took his eye off the ball. Get that glove out there from the get-go with your stretch.
Mayberry split his time this year between first base and the outfield. And Torres bloops one, and Utley able to retreat and grab it for the second out. Let's take a look at the National League East standings presented by Dunkin' Donuts. And the Phillies languishing at the bottom. That reflects the Nationals win this afternoon. The Mets 4 back at the moment, and the Phillies now 12.5 behind.
They're staring at 13. Unlucky number. Never understood a player that can wear 13. I wouldn't get near it.
And if you're thinking about, well, you know, it's going to be easier to make the postseason this year because you have a second wild card team. The Phillies at the moment are 8.5 games out of the second wild card spot. So even though General Manager Ruben Amaro has vehemently denied that the Phillies have made any decisions about being sellers, certainly day by day, as the losses mount for Philadelphia, those questions have to be asked more and more. Nickius is 0 for 2, and he pulls one foul. Here's some historical context. Since the expansion began in 1961, so we're talking about 50-plus years, a team that reaches the midpoint of their season with 36 or fewer wins, as the Phillies did this year, has only made the postseason once. And that was the 1973 Mets, who won their division with only 82 victories. So while the Phillies have been a very good second half team and will certainly get the reinforcement of getting Halladay and Howard back, history is not on their side. Nicky is down on strikes, 7 strikeouts for Lee. Through 6, 2-0 New York. For being out on a boat, enjoying the lake in Central Park.
A little boathouse afterwards.
Boathouse is outstanding. Go there for a little toddy in the winter with that fireplace working.
Right.
Meanwhile, Chris Young working into the 7th inning as he takes on Juan Pierre to lead off. Mets with a 2-0 lead. Young has allowed just 2 hits, a single to Pierre in the 4th and a single to Pence in the 5th, and that's been it. And Pierre takes a strike.
You can see the defense right in aggressively at third, and Ike in, and also Daniel Murphy, notice, really shortening up.
And Pierre has his 2nd hit of the day. Boy, he's been able to square it up against the Mets all year. He's hitting .500 against Met pitching now for the season. So just the 3rd hit against Young, and Pierre's 2nd. And now Chase Utley will come to bat as the tying run. Utley has grounded out to 2nd and fly deep to center, 0 for 2.
You know, I know that Chris's pitch count is low, only 68 pitches. You're in the 7th inning. But I think we've seen in the past with Chris, I think you just have to be at least aware, if you're manager Terry Collins, that things can go very quickly.
All you have to remember is 2 starts back against the Yankees here at Citi Field. He carried a 3-0 lead into the 7th. a leadoff walk, a misplayed fly ball, and a 3-run homer by Raul Ibanez on 3 straight pitches.
I think it takes so much of his mechanics to make sure he gets that 6-foot 10-inch frame where it has to go. Happy 4th.
Nice to see Captain America at the ballpark.
Then when he gets a little off, it can happen quickly.
And you recall that playoff when Dusty Baker got criticized, where with the Giants, I believe, where the inning happened so rapidly, didn't have anybody up early, late in the game, and they wound up losing that game. But it happened like lightning.
Pierre was in running mode there,
yes,
taking an extra step. He's already stolen a base today, his 20th of the year.
Very rarely does Terry Collins pitch out, but in retrospect, Chris Young throws a lot of fastballs up anyway.
Well, Nicky's got a perfect pitch to handle, almost like a pitch out on Pierre's stolen base earlier today. Utley pulls one down the right field line, and that ball's out of here. Utley ties the game with a 2-run homer, his 2nd of the year. Well, Utley, who homered on his first at bat of the season coming back from the disabled list, now has his 2nd, and it gets the Phillies on the board and ties the game.
Well, let's see what the pitch is. Fastball right down Broadway. Bell tie.
And hits it to a part of the ballpark he has visited before.
Yes, he has. Wanted that pitch away and down and just made a mistake. Happens.
So again, it goes quickly for Young at the start of the 7th. Here's Carlos Ruiz bluffing a bunt with Wright playing way back at 3rd. Ruiz has been up twice, flied out both times. Just the 2nd home run Chris Young has given up this year. And Ruiz follows with a long fly ball to left. Harriston goes back, looks up, and it's out of here. And just like that, the Phillies take the lead. Back-to-back home runs for Utley and Ruiz, and it's 3-2 Philadelphia. Number 13 for Ruiz, who's now homered in each of the first 2 games of the series.
Ronnie, you take this one. Location.
Well, it's fastball up right now on first pitch to Ruiz is what he has been feasting on. I wasn't trying to say that Chris was losing it. I guess I'm trying to say the pitch count is irrelevant for me when it comes to Chris, and the reason being is that his assortment of what he throws hitters is the same throughout the entire game. So when you get to the 3rd or 4th time up for them, they're still seeing what? High fastballs, and they're seeing an occasional breaking ball. Not really many changeups does he throw. So, that as much as pitch count, or more than pitch count, is one of the reasons that they start to get the timing down.
Now Hunter Pence takes a breaking ball for ball 1. So you saw Miguel Batista up in the bullpen. Meanwhile, Cliff Lee now has a lead. And this was the opportune time for the Phillies to score for him, because he's due to lead off in the bottom of this Lee with his pitch count up now at 89. Now has himself a lead to work with and a chance to stay in this game and get his first win of the year. High breaking ball, 2-2.
Well, Ronnie, if you're Cliff Lee and you're the stopper and you're the pitcher that you run up a couple goose eggs to get it to Papelbon. If not, finish it.
Well, keep in mind, as strike 3 called to Pence for the first out of the inning. Keep in mind that 7 times this year Lee has had a lead and not won the game.
Well, this is fun to watch here. Misses with 2 breaking balls, trying to come back and do something different to Pence. Then gets away with a fastball right down the middle that Pence takes. Then a hanging slider or curveball that he gets away with, and then paints the slider on the outside corner. Maybe a generous call there from Timmons.
He's gotten away from his fastball now. I think he realizes that he gets in trouble much like Sid. If he throws it in the strike zone, he's got to elevate it.
Little flare to second, and Murphy picks it off for the second out.
I think you make a good point there, Keith, is that he's good high. He can get away with down, but, like most pitchers in the middle, that's saying. But, if when he gets a little tired, most pitchers' ball tend to go up in the strike zone. When he gets tired, the ball comes down in the strike zone and more hittable.
So after the back-to-back home runs, Young has gotten 2 outs. Now he faces Polanco with the bases empty. And a ground ball for Tejada to handle. And that'll do it for the Phillies in the 7th. But back-to-back home runs by Utley and Ruiz have given the Phils the lead. It's 3-2 Philadelphia as we reach the 7th inning stretch. The public address announcer here at Citi Field, Alex Anthony.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your caps as we honor our great nation and all of the men and women who help keep us safe and free with the singing of God Bless America. Please welcome Sergeant First Class Constance Campbell of the United States Army.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, why we foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Ladies and gentlemen, Constance Campbell of the United States Army.
Here's Mets box score presented by Hospital for Special Surgery. Scott Harriston with a home run. David Wright an RBI single. For a while that was enough for Chris Young, but now back-to-back home runs by Utley and Ruiz have given Cliff Lee a 3-2 lead as we start the bottom of the 7th. Ronnie Cedeno bats for Young and takes a strike from Lee. The first thought for Terry Collins today was that he was going to have Cedeno in the starting lineup against Lee and play Daniel Murphy at first base. Changed his mind, put Davis in instead. And Cedeno pops one foul. Cedeno has a home run against Cliff Lee in his career, 1 for 9.
Well, Cliff Lee is winless all year, Ronnie. They've given him a lead here late.
It's the 8th time this year in 14 starts he's had a lead. He has not always allowed that to stand up. Tim Burdock getting ready in the Mets bullpen. And Cedeno pops one up. Easy for Utley. 1 out. So 1 out and nobody on. Ruben Tejada coming up. I want to take a moment to pass along our best wishes to one of our co-workers, Phil Antonucci, who does a great job with the audio down in the truck. Phil is under the weather at home and watching the broadcast, and all of us with SNY send out nothing but best wishes to Phil for a really fast and full recovery. Here's Ruben Tejada, who's 2 for 3 today, a single and a double. He scored a run. Tejada 3 hits last night, 2 more today. Has boosted his average to 333. And a letter high strike, and Lee, who's been pouring in strikes all day, gets ahead 0-2. 95 pitches, 74 strikes, and only 21 balls. Murphy waiting on deck. And the breaking ball fouled at the plate.
You know, lost in this because the Mets had the lead for so long is that the Mets have decided to do what they always do, and that is be very patient at bat. So 25 times they have started the at bat 0-1. On an 0-1 count, his numbers 213 batting average against Lee. It's got to tell you at some point you got to swing early in the count.
Well, the first pitch strikes tell an enormous story in this game for Lee. 24 of 28 today.
Well, 24, sorry. The wrong number.
And you can compound that, Ronnie, with that he predominantly pitches inside. So you can be aggressive first pitch looking middle in.
You give up we've seen it all year. The pitchers who are able to pound the strike zone have had the greatest success pitching against the Mets.
You give up a few hits early in the count on the first pitch, you'll start to deviate from throwing the ball down the middle. First pitch.
Tejada working it to 2-2. He had that great keynote at bat last night against Vance Worley, leading off the first inning when he saw 11 pitches, made an out, but really set the tone for the night. Now the 2-2 from Lee, and he misses upstairs, and a full count.
Well, Lee does not want to get to David Wright here in this inning. This is the inning he wants a 1-2-3.
Yep.
Well, it's those innings after being handed the lead where you've got to pitch shutdown ball, and it's been a problem for Lee, particularly lately. 3-2 coming to Tejada, and he pops one up in foul ground. Mayberry coming over. And just enough room to make the grab. 2 out. Talk baseball with SNY's Bobby Ojeda during the third inning of tomorrow's game. Just go to SNY.TV, click on the link, and join the conversation. It's Chat Live with Bobby Ojeda, presented by Verizon, only on SNY.TV. So Lee right at 100 pitches with 2 out of the 7th. If you're Charlie Manuel, you would love for Lee to be able to hand the ball directly to Jonathan Papelbon without any intervening relief.
Well, I guarantee he's got no one up in that bullpen, Charlie Emanuel, and Batista's up in the Met bullpen. And, you know, it's if Murph gets a hit, it's on Cliff Lee to get David Wright because there's just no confidence in Brian Sanchez and Michael Schwimmer.
Murphy 1 for 3 today. Singled over Utley's head into right center his last time up. Wright drove in the second Met run, hoping for a turn here in the 7th. Mets have 7 hits off Lee today. And Murphy takes a fast strike, and it's 1-1. And an easy ground ball for Mayberry to handle. He'll take it himself, and so Lee, after being handed the lead, sets the Mets down 1-2-3. On to the 8th, 3-2 Phillies. This 3-game series with a splendid pitching matchup. R.A. Dickey against Cole Hamels. 6:30 the coverage tomorrow night, Mets and Phillies, right here on SNY. We go to the 8th inning on the 4th of July at Citi Field, and Miguel Batista will try and keep this a 1-run game.
Well, Miguel is a man out of that bullpen that could fill many roles, but he's been pitching late innings now, late important innings now, and important here, of course, to keep this game a 1-run deficit.
Cliff Lee will lead off. Will be up second in the 8th inning behind John Mayberry. Jim Burdock getting ready in the Mets bullpen. The next strict left-hand hitter up is Juan Pierre, who's due up 4th in the inning. Of course, you got Pierre and Utley in those 2 and 3 spots. Chris Young went 7, allowed 3 runs and 5 hits, no walks, 3 strikeouts, couple of home runs, and boy, you hate to be right in predicting doom for a guy, but again, it all came very quickly against Young in that 7th inning. Very similar to his start against the Yankees a couple of starts ago. It's a nice C on that jersey, Keith.
Everything looks right. C, 17, Mets. Cerveza.
It's sharply, and Batista's first pitch is a bullet for a base hit from Mayberry. So Mayberry, who struck out twice against Young, has his first hit in the series, and that enables Lee to come up and try and bunt, and that's going to be the only pitch Batista throws. Burdock will come in to face Lee and perhaps stay on for the remainder of the inning. So Terry Collins makes a pitching change, and Burdock will come on. This call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon Wireless. Win Mets memorabilia from Verizon at Mets.com/Verizon Sweeps. 3-2 Phillies in the 8th. We'll be right back. Rollins tied for first place. Pirates. Tim Burdack in to pitch to Cliff Lee, who's looking to bunt and pokes at one and goes foul.
Burdack hasn't pitched since the 28th of June in Los Angeles.
Well, likely to get back to his prior heavy workload now that Justin Hampson was designated for assignment today, again leaving Burdack as the only lefty in the Mets bullpen.
Probably wondering why would you bring in a different pitcher to face the pitcher who's bunting. Well, Burdack will hold the runner closer, being the left-hander, also a very good fielder.
At least stabbing at it. Did not look good on either of those first two attempts.
Maybe that lefty-lefty matchup works on bunting.
He's got to square around more, doesn't he?
I just think he fears the ball that starts at him, the little slider.
So now on 0-2, Mets still looking for the bunt. And Lee takes just off the plate a slider, 1-2. By the way, we mentioned Justin Hampson getting designated for assignment today. The former Met Chris Schwinden is now becoming the king of the DFA. He was designated for assignment today for the 4th time in about a month. First the Mets, then Toronto, then Cleveland, and now the Yankees designating Schwinden for assignment.
Start to hurt your feelings.
Well, you can look at it positively and say, gosh, a lot of teams like me.
Would you look at it that way?
They keep picking me up.
When they go, when there's nobody left to call, that's when you got to worry.
Get some mouthwash or something.
Lee gets the bunt down with 2 strikes. Burdack fumbles for a moment and then gets the out at first. So the sacrifice goes 1-4, moving Mayberry to second.
I think Tim was thinking of a play at second base, and I think that's the reason of the fumble.
Do you think he had one?
No. But it's always good to aggressively come look at the bag when you got pitcher running. Get time to check yourself and throw to first.
Jimmy Rollins 0 for 3 today and 0 for his last 18 as he steps in from the right side now.
Well, 228 hitter from the right side. That's why the move to Burdack from Terry Collins. And you get rid of Juan Pierre, who's hitting 300.
Pierre and Utley, the next 2 scheduled hitters, both left-hand batters, and Ty Wigginton out on deck to bat for Pierre. Changeup from Burdack. 1-1. It's been a hot and cold season for Rollins so far. Got off to a dreadful start. Then you couldn't get him out for a month. There's a slider for a strike, 1-2. Jeremy Hefner up in the bullpen for New York. With an eye toward Carlos Ruiz, who's 3 batters away.
Or if he's up in time, it could be an eye towards Wigginton. You never know.
Would you take that chance
I
and
don't
have him
know.
in there to face Utley? Now the 1-2. And that's upstairs a fastball, 2-2.
I think I'd stay with the veteran right here in Burdack.
Utley has the big hit in this game, a game-tying 2-run homer in the 7th. Followed 2 pitches later by Carlos Ruiz home run that gave the Phillies the lead. Burdack perhaps showing some signs of rust, having not pitched in 5 days. It's been a rarity this year for him to have that much time off. So heavily used over the first 2 months of the season. Now the 3-2 to Rollins. And he gets that slider near his feet that he fouls off.
Swung a ball 4 right there, and that would have been a disaster. Well, not disaster, but it would not have been good.
Well, I think you were saying before about leaving Burdack in, the veteran, to face Wigginton. Well, he got Utley up too, behind Wigginton, so.
Again, the 3-2 to Rollins. And he flies one to deep center field. Back goes Torres a long way back, and he won't reach this one. It hops over the fence for a ground rule double. That'll bring home Mayberry, and it's 4-2 Philadelphia. Rollins with his first hit in the series breaks an 0 for 18 skid, hitting one 400 feet against Burdack.
Well, there are sometimes I just think Andres Torres just plays too shallow. There's a slider, try to get at the back door, and it breaks out over the middle, right in the wheelhouse here. And this ball's ripped to the biggest part of the ballpark. That's a tough chance. But I just like to see Andres just play a little, maybe 5 feet deeper.
Now the Mets will intentionally walk the pinch hitter Ty Wigginton and bring up Utley. So they'll get the lefty-lefty matchup. Wigginton, who played first base last night and went 1 for 2 with a walk.
And by
pinch
the way,
hitting here for Pierre.
A healthy Chase Utley, I don't believe you'd be doing this.
Yeah, right.
Well, Mets got 6 terrific innings out of Chris Young. He gave up back-to-back homers in the 7th, and now the bullpen struggling here in the 8th. Mayberry a first pitch hit against Batista, and now Rollins with the run-scoring double against Burdack.
Well, Utley was pretty healthy in his last at-bat, wasn't he?
Hefner is ready in the bullpen, but not for Utley. Utley and Burdack have battled on pretty even terms. Utley's 3 for 11 against him in his career. But it was all going very well for Chris Young until Utley struck with that tying home run in the 7th. Now 2 aboard, and Utley swings and misses at a first pitch fastball, 0-1. Well, he certainly brings more presence to the Phillies lineup. Whether he's fully the Chase Utley of old or not. Rollins now at second and Wigginton at first with 1 out. And Burdack quickly ahead on Utley, 0-2. Carlos Ruiz on deck. That's why Hefner's getting ready in the bullpen. And Utley pulls one down the line, a foul ball, just beyond the ball boy's reach.
Well, there's that Utley swing we're so used to. It's almost like a Richie Hebner swing, if you recall. That's one of your favorites, Gare. That hockey swing.
Well, Chase was a hockey player as a kid, like Hebner was up in Massachusetts.
Right.
Not sure they played hockey in Chase's neck of the woods. Here's the 0-2. And a fly ball foul.
Utley does not have a real big follow through in his swing. He stays very short and compact. Now watch his follow through. Level, hardly anyhow. He stops his bat. Doesn't. I remember Piazza's follow through. He wrapped the bat around his back.
Beltran too.
Yes. He is complete opposite.
Here's the 0-2 and the slider line to center. On comes Torres to get it. Rollins slow to get back, and the throw gets away. I'm not sure that Torres realized that he had a shot at Rollins. Took an extra step before releasing that ball.
Well, Andres playing shallow here takes away a base hit. I think Rollins got back in time.
You know, bad read by Jimmy. He thought it was going to be a base hit off the bat. Tejada making like a first baseman.
So 2 out in the inning. 2 aboard for Ruiz, and Terry Collins will make another pitching change and bring Jeremy Hefner in to get the right-hander in against Ruiz. 4-2 Phillies in the 8th. Back in a moment. top of the 8th inning.
Well, Hefner hasn't pitched since July 1st against the Dodgers. One solid inning, no runs.
In to face Carlos Ruiz with first and second and 2 out. A run in here in the 8th. And Ruiz takes a strike. Hefner got his first big league win in a start against the Phillies here on May the 29th. Went 6 solid innings in that game. Ruiz was not in the lineup that night for the Phils. So he's facing him for the first time. And threw the high fastball by him, and it's 0-2.
That was a home run night for Hefner, was it?
Well, he gave up a home run that night.
He didn't hit one, though?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Forgot about his hitting exploits. Now the 0-2 to Ruiz, and he pokes one the other way, a base hit. Here comes Rollins around third. Duda does not make a throw, drops the ball. Rollins is in. 5-2 Phillies. So Ruiz cashes one in on a 0-2 pitch, taking one the other way for his second RBI of the day.
Well, 2 strikes on him. Flat slider. Nice hitting. And I don't think you're going to throw out Rollins even if that comes up clean. So Ruiz has just had a terrific series these first 2 games.
So the Phillies have scored just 1 run in the first 15 innings of this series. Put up 3 in the 7th against Young and 2 against the bullpen here in the 8th. Here's Hunter Pence, is 1 for 3 and takes a breaking ball for a strike. Batista gave up a base hit to start the inning. Burdick yielded the run scoring double to Rollins. And now Hefner allows a run scoring hit to Ruiz. It's been a community effort.
I've always felt that if pitchers knew more about hitting, they wouldn't make the mistakes they do. On 2 strikes in an RBI situation, Ruiz, he's vulnerable inside.
Yep.
If you choose to go outside, you've got to go outside 1.5 feet, not 6 inches, because they'll reach out because that's where they're going.
Well, it's the first time in his big league career that Hefner has pitched with an inherited runner. So a test for Hefner.
That's a very good point that you bring up, Ronnie, because I have an experience with that I will share with you.
Tejada boots it, turning third and trying to score now is Wigginton. The throw to the plate by Tejada is not in time. 6-2 Philadelphia. Well, Wigginton never stopped coming around third as Tejada booted that ball to his left. And the Phillies tack on a run.
Well, tough chance to go with 2 hands. You possibly could have. Tejada usually sure-handed. And that's all Wigginton hustle right there.
Well, the imperative with 2 on the runner at second is to keep the ball in front of you.
Well, he couldn't get in front of it. Ball came up a tad, and Tejada's been playing such a good shortstop. It's unusual to see him make a boot.
They scored that a base hit for Pence.
Wow.
Victorino hits a slow ground ball. Tough chance for Wright, who makes that great barehand pickup and throws him out. Wright has been brilliant with that play all year long, but a tough inning for the Mets bullpen. They give up 3. 6-2 Phillies in the 8th. The Phillies. John Mayberry moves from first base to left field. Cliff Lee now has a 4-run lead heading to the bottom of the 8th, looking for his elusive first win of the year. Mets will try and fight back with the heart of the batting order. Wright, Harriston, and Duda here in the bottom of the 8th. Mets at a 2-0 lead, but the Phillies with 3 in the 7th and 3 in the 8th. Wright had an RBI single his last time up in the 5th. And a first pitch swing, and he fouls it off. Wright is 1 for 3 on the day. Well, after first pitch strike after first pitch strike all day long, why wouldn't you try to attack early in the count? And the curveball has Wright fishing, and it's 0-2.
Well, Tom McCarthy, the TV voice of the Phillies, former Met announcer, more than a few years ago, told us before the game that Lee, the last 3 starts, hardly didn't use his curveball. He certainly used it in this game, Ronnie.
Yeah, a little more. I mean, a half dozen of them well placed. There's Tommy.
Very serious there.
He's in the top 5 nicest men in the game, right?
Nicest men in the world.
Yeah.
Well, Lee has been looking to get Wright out inside all day. Caught him looking at an inside fastball back in the first. Phillies bullpen staying active in case Lee needs help. Now he's gone from 0-2 to 3-2 on Wright. Lee has walked only 1. He struck out 7. David Schwimmer, the right-hander, up in the Phillies bullpen. 3-2 to Wright, and David lines one foul. Lee began the year 50 games over 500 for his career, 119 and 69. 0-5 this season. Strike 3 called. David caught looking for the second time today.
I think David thought that pitch was down, saying to Tim Timmons. Twice in 2 days, David's had issues with the umpires. What do you think, Keith?
Too close to take, Ronnie. Too close to take. Your low ball umpire, it's a strike.
You might be arguing too, though.
A little bit. It's close.
Yeah.
It could have gone either way. They gave it to the pitcher. It's Dutch rendered. It's a strike. Oh, David's hot.
The umpire just told David that's all he's going to take. Any more comment from Dave, and it'll be the showers early.
Got some rabbit ears out there.
It's a good way to adjust your set. Harriston drives another one to left field, but he got this one off the end of the bat, and Mayberry is over to get it for the second out. So Harriston, who homered back in the 4th inning, didn't get quite as much this time. 2 out and nobody on. Antonio Bastardo, the left-hander, up alongside Schwimmer in the Phillies bullpen. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Duda, who's 1 for 2 in a walk. Mets have had 7 hits today, but they haven't had one since the 5th inning against Lee, who has not allowed a base runner since being handed the lead. A ball and a strike to Duda. Now the 1-2 from Lee. Couldn't get him to bite on the curveball in the dirt. 2-2. Lee trying to finish off the 8th inning. And he gets Duda looking to retire the side. 9 strikeouts for Lee. 7 of the 9 have been on call third strikes. On to the 9th we go. 6-2 Phillies. Eighth, after giving up a couple of run-scoring hits, will stay on for the 9th to face Placido Polanco, with the Phillies now leading 6-2. Polanco 0 for 3 today, hitless in his last 15 at bats. Cliff Lee on the verge of his first win of the year. 116 pitches. Jonathan Papelbon getting ready in the bullpen. With the Phillies on a 6-game losing streak, Charlie Manuel would not wait for a save situation to get Papelbon into the game.
Well, you lose 6 in a row, you're not using your closer. You need to get him some work.
It'll be Polanco, then Mayberry, and then the pitcher's spot here in the top of the 9th. There's a strike. Lee does not have a complete game this year as Ramon Ramirez up in the Mets bullpen, but there's an asterisk there. He did pitch 10 innings,
10 innings, right,
in one game against the Giants in a no decision. Little flare toward the middle and a base hit for Polanco. So Hefner's faced 4 batters, given up 3 hits. Let's check in with the studio, see what's coming up on WB Mason Postgame Live. Chris and Bobby back in the studio, guys. John Mayberry, the batter, with a runner aboard on the top of the 9th. Mayberry got the 8th inning rally started for the Phillies with a single to center field against Miguel Batista. Phillies then tacked on 3 in that 8th inning. Former Met Jason Pridey has come out on deck to pinch hit. Pridey just called up the other day by the Phils. Had a lot of action for the Mets last year. He was in over 100 games. And Mayberry hits a slow ground ball right, the underhand to Murphy, and he turns it, but not in time. That's a hard throw to understand.
I don't like it. He's done it before. We've seen it before. He's got to throw it to him on the run. David's good at throwing on the run. This is not going to get it done. I mean, it's going to get the lead out. He'd take a chance that it's not getting there with the velocity. Look at it. It's like a parachute. Really taking a chance that someone can beat it.
Even takes longer in super slow-mo.
That's right. Jeez. You have no chance in super slow-mo.
Forever.
So here's Pridey, who's had one at bat with the Phillies since they called him up day before yesterday. And he takes a curveball from Hefner for ball 1.
Well, if there are 2 on, I'd be fearful. Jason Pridey with the Mets, right? They had a couple of 3-run home runs.
Well spaced. 1-1 the count. Well, Jason did a nice job at a time when the Mets were injury riddled.
That's right.
And needed an extra outfielder. He played quite a bit. Mayberry at first and 1 out. And Hefner comes in with the fastball, 1-2. Looking ahead to the 9th inning, the Mets will have Davis, Torres, and Nikias due up. A game that was in the Mets' hands for 6 innings, and then it blew up in a hurry for Chris Young. A little looper by Pridey, and that'll fall in for a base hit. Mayberry will go first to third, and the Phillies have runners at the corners with 1 out. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Geico. By Modell's. Stop by your local Modell's and enter the Amazing Mets sweepstakes for your chance to win a once-in-a-lifetime Mets experience. And by Audi, truth in engineering. Now Jimmy Rollins, who had a long double to center in the 8th inning to snap an 0 for 18 stretch and drive in a run. That made it 4-2 Philadelphia. Hefner's now faced 6 batters and given up 4 hits.
In Jeremy's defense, I think that one of those was scored improperly. I thought that the ground ball was ruled a base hit. Should have been an E6 to Tejada.
Ball that Pence hit.
Yeah.
Well, it's compensation for Pence after those 2 leaping grabs that Murphy and Tejada made last night.
We've disagreed with the official scoring a lot this year, or so it seems to me.
Is that because we're getting more curmudgeonly?
Absolutely.
Or is it something else?
Sign of the times.
Foul back, 1-2 to Rollins. Well, the Mets bullpen continues to struggle. It's been the Achilles heel of this team going all the way back to the beginning of the season. They've rearranged some deck chairs from time to time, but the fact has remained from April to July, it's a problem. Murphy trying to turn 2, but not enough time to double up Rollins, and Mayberry comes in to score. So the Phillies tack on a run and make it 7-2. RBI for Rollins is second of the day. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. Here's Ty Wigginton, who came up as a pinch hitter in the 8th, was intentionally walked, hustled his way into a run, coming in on that Pence ground ball. Just think that some way or another, if the Mets want to be in contention for a postseason berth this year, they've got to make a move with their bullpen, whether it's internally or externally, and it needs to be soon. Wigginton gets under one to deep left field. Back goes Harriston, looking up near the wall, and it's out of here.
Wow.
Ty Wigginton adds the exclamation point with a 2-run homer, his 9th of the year. And the Phillies have put up a trio of 3s in the last 3 innings. It's 9-2.
You know the numbers Wigginton has against the Mets this season.
That's his 3rd home run against him, isn't it?
Oh.
3 home runs and 1 catcher concussed.
Yes.
Let's see the pitch.
Hanging slider.
Oh, yes. Flat.
Well, that's 6 runs in an inning and 2/3 charged to the Mets bullpen. 1 on the record of Batista, 2 on Burdack, and now 3 on Hefner. Yeah, Utley takes a curveball for a strike, 1-1. Utley has the biggest hit in this game for the Phillies, a 2-run homer in the 7th. They got the Phillies even after Chris Young had blanked them for the first 6. Carlos Ruiz then followed that 2 pitches later with a home run, and the Phillies have pulled away since. Murphy on the outfield grass to play it. Throws out Utley by a stride to end the inning, but the Phils tack on 3, 9-2 as we go to the bottom of the 9th. Edition at 10:30. We've got off-season basketball and off-season hockey, and you wouldn't know it was baseball season. You wouldn't, but check in with Geico Sports. I'm sure they'll toss in a little baseball there.
Parisi just got that 13-year deal.
That's wild.
It is wild.
Jonathan Papelbon in a distinctly non-save situation will pitch the bottom of the 9th.
Well, Pap has been pretty good, not in non-save situations, but 18 and 19 saves, everything that you would want in your closer.
So do you think at this point Cliff Lee is biting his fingernails?
No. Well, biting his fingernails. Wouldn't say he's biting his fingernails, but he is watching.
7-run lead. 3 outs away from his first win of the year.
Boy, he had a nice game, didn't he?
Well, he was down 2-0 after the Harriston home run, and then the 3 straight hits with 2 out in the 5th. And the way Young was going, you thought it might hold up, but Young again getting hit by 7th-inning lightning. And so Lee in line for his first win in his 14th start of the year. Ike Davis 1 for 3 today, an infield hit back in the 2nd. And he takes a fastball strike from Papelbon. Well, Lee finished his day by retiring the last 9 batters to face him, and did not allow a base runner after being given the lead. And Papelbon quickly ahead on Davis, 0-2.
Well, the Mets are in danger of losing their 33rd 4th of July game, Gare. Their record coming in is 28-32 on Independence Day. You didn't know I researched that heavily.
I didn't know that was a stat they kept. Do you go year by year and just check off
Right?
the
Every
July
now and
4th
again,
game?
every now and again, I got bored and I got nothing to do.
When you were researching it, how'd they lose in '77?
Well, I can tell you this: their first Independence Day victory was in '66 at Connie Mack Field against these Phillies.
Wasn't one of Tom Seaver's near no hitters on July 4th against the Padres?
Yep.
The one that Leron Lee broke up?
Well, I know there was a win, but I don't know if you counted on July 4th, 27 years ago, that little game in Atlanta.
I think the win came on the 5th.
That's right.
No save, by the way.
No save.
But we were just glad that someone got 3 outs.
Yeah, right.
Did you give up 2 runs in the 19th?
2 unearned runs. The number 17 over here made an error.
I was
tired.
I was so tired.
Davis pops one up. So you're saying your career ERA in the 19th inning is 0?
0.
That's good. Davis retired for the first out in the bottom of the 9th.
I always say that, considering how most people know about that 80s Mets team, it's hard to beat those guys after 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
We were just waking up.
And does that mean that you hit for the cycle in every 19-inning game you ever played in?
I guess that does mean that. I can tell you my last out I made, the last at bat, I was so tired. And I forget, it was Rip Camp was pitching or someone with a sinker ball, right-hander.
Rick Camp.
He threw me a dead fish sinker right down the middle, bait, and it just sunk at the last minute. And I rolled it over to second base. And I was so tired, I ran halfway to first and made a right U-turn to the third base dugout.
Webby showed you, and they ripped you.
I was exhausted.
Torres out to center field, and Victorino has a beat on it. And now there are 2 out. So the Mets are down to their final out on this 4th of July, and Josh Tolley will pinch hit for Mike Nickius.
Oh, by the way, in 1977, Ron, Independence Day, since you asked, Mets lost at Philadelphia 3-1 in front of 63,000 people.
Wow. That was the first anniversary of the bicentennial in Philadelphia. I wonder how many of the folks watching remember the bicentennial.
I do.
Big deal that was in 1976.
Big ships and all.
Tall ships in New York Harbor. Here's Tolley, who was 3 for 4 last night, and he takes it wide for ball 1.
Well, you remember in '76, the centennial, the bicentennial, they had the hats with the old pirate hats. Cardinals, we had them.
Everybody wore them that year.
And I always swung Louisville Slugger, and they embossed on your bat. This should end the game right here. A Liberty Bell on your bat. Should have kept those bats.
Victorino squeezes it. And the Phillies even up the series. Cliff Lee gets a pat on the back for his first victory of the season, as he and Papelbon combine to retire the last 12 Mets. And what looked like a promising afternoon for the Mets and Chris Young turns completely around and turns into Lee's first win of the year.
Well, he'll go into the All-Star break with 1 win. And again, there was just a 3-batter grouping for Chris Young that got him today. The hit